once again, I say this a lot, but I had the absolute privilege to talk with Michael Hughes. He is the CEO of Elevation Labs, and we got into, his background and what it was like, growing up in Dublin and then coming over to the U.S. and being with this big company, P&G, and then how he has transitioned into his role. And then we really start to dive into packaging and what role has packaging played as they have had to pivot and shift into a hand sanitizer market, along with meeting the needs of other things like hand soaps and hand lotions. It was really fascinating. And then towards the end, we get to talk about, hey, what's happening with sustainability from their end? What are customers asking them for? What's being pushed? And it was really fascinating. So I hope that you really learned something and that you enjoy this interview that I got to do with Michael Hughes from Elevation Labs. Oh, and by the way, check out their website, elevationlabs.com. If you're watching this video, it's on here behind me. And if it's on audio, it's Elevation, spelled ELEVATIONLABS.com. Here's Michael Hughes. I am here with Michael Hughes from Elevation Labs. Elevation Labs is a great company that I've known for a couple of years now. They're based out of Idaho Falls, and I'm excited, not just because of what the company does, but really the things that they've been doing throughout this crisis. And we're going to dig into that with Michael Hughes. So, Michael, welcome to the People of Packaging podcast. Not a whole lot of people get to say that they've been on a packaging podcast. So I know that this will be the biggest achievement in your entire life. So I'll make sure to send you a plaque or something. But in all seriousness, no, thank you though. Thanks for being on.
No, it's good to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So we like to just give everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves, since you're not like married to a Kardashian and probably not everybody knows who you are. So maybe just about your background and how you ended up at Elevation Labs would be kind of a good place to start.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Ireland. Hopefully there's a small bit of an accent left there. I've been in the States for about 17 years, but I studied mechanical engineering over in UCD in Ireland, and started my career in Ireland in the beauty care industry with Procter & Gamble. Okay. I had aspirations of being a race car designer or some other cool mechanical engineering kind of goal, and started off in beauty care and thought I'd been there for a little while, and 20 years later I'm still here. So but enjoyed my time in Ireland with P&G, doing brands like Olay and CoverGirl and other cosmetic brands, and then had the opportunity to transfer to the US after about 3 years when I was about 25, 26. And took that opportunity and worked in several locations across the U.S., from Iowa City to Cincinnati to Boston, with Procter & Gamble, and then 18 years in total with that organization, and then had the opportunity to join Elevation Labs as a COO originally back in 2017, and took the leap into the contract manufacturing world, and about 3 months later I was the CEO of the company. So I've been doing that for the last almost 3 years now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you still secretly desire to design race cars?
Yeah, I like Formula One race cars. My son's getting into it as well, but I've kind of passed up the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm living fortuitously through him and seeing if I can push him in that direction.
That's awesome. And so I've never been to Ireland. I know a couple of friends who grew up there, and it's definitely on the bucket list. So what do you see as a difference just in general living? So you're in Idaho Falls, which is this, for those of you who don't know, is a small town. It's beautiful. Small town in would that be eastern Idaho? Yeah,
yep,
Eastern Idaho.
Yep.
Easy accessibility. So was that a little bit different? Obviously, you were in, would you say, Iowa, Cincinnati, Boston? So you've kind of gotten to experience a fair amount of the U.S. Do you ever just find yourself longing for the rainy seasons of Dublin? Or
The weather is one thing I much prefer in the US. It gets colder and hotter here, and you've got the four seasons. And in Ireland, it does rain a lot, so it's hard to kind of predict or plan out your golf weekend or whatever else. So I
Sure.
do prefer that. There's plenty of cultural differences, but more similarities than differences.
Right.
Obviously, the language is the same, and people are people wherever you go in the world, and wherever I've lived, I've tried to make the most of it. There's good and bad to everything, but I get back to Ireland probably once a year, every year or 18 months, and bring my family back as well. We're going to miss. We were supposed to be there in August. That probably isn't going to happen this year, unfortunately. But and my family in Ireland get to visit over here quite often. I think everything in America is bigger houses, bigger cars, bigger, all those things. And you do get used to that, and you go back home to visit, and you're in your tiny little shower in the morning and whatever else. You wonder how you grew up in that. But yeah, overall, it's nice to have the contrast, and it's nice to get home and meet with friends and family and see the culture. The culture in the bars is very different. The culture in dropping into somebody for a cup of tea is pretty normal in Ireland, and over here it's kind of more of an organized kind of play date kind of event.
Right.
So there's a few things like that, but yeah, I've gotten to visit 47 of the U.S. states now, so I'd like to travel around, like to do photography as I do that, and it's great. It's just great to see different parts of the world, and I've gotten the opportunity to live in lots of different places. So.
Yeah, you do have one thing that's bigger in Ireland than here, which is UFC personality. I think Conor McGregor's head and ego is probably larger than anything else we have here.
Larger than life, for sure. Yeah.
And then I saw there was I have not listened to you were on a podcast, and I saw this little cryptic note that said your background including tending bar at an age, a questionable age, I think is what it says.
Yeah.
So,
I was 14 at the time when my mother must have been sick of me and told me to go find a job somewhere, and I went into a local bar, and my parents don't actually drink, so I'd never even been inside a pub, but I asked for a job, and 2 nights later I'm serving beer and wine and whatnot, and had no clue what I was doing, but I ended up working there for 7 years. So it was a great eye-opening experience for me, and kind of taught me a lot about working with people closely, and working with customers and customer service and all those things. So it served me well over the years.
Yeah, I've worked in bars and restaurants, early on, and it's just one of those jobs that you almost wish everybody could do at one point in their life, to understand the pace, and you just deal with people on different levels oftentimes, and especially now, I think that industry got hit pretty hard, and you guys actually did something for I saw recently where you posted a picture of a whole bunch of gift cards.
Yeah.
That you guys did, and I thought it was awesome. It was like a double blessing almost. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that. Like, where did that come from, and what'd you guys do?
Well, we typically do, as a leadership team for our employees. We have 400 employees here in Idaho, and nearly a couple of hundred now in Colorado. So we typically, several times through the year, but Cinco de Mayo is one of the things. We've quite a large Hispanic population, and it's just a good reason to good time of the year to kind of do some recognition. So typically our leadership team would serve a lunch, outside or inside a barbecue or whatever else, to our employees around this time of year. So obviously with coronavirus, that wasn't an option to kind of be in that kind of proximity and touching food and so on. So we wanted to do something instead of that. And then knowing that our restaurants that we typically would use for customer meals and other things locally were obviously struggling, being down and only serving outside or whatever else. So we went and bought 400 for our employees here in Idaho, gift certificates, gift vouchers for those restaurants, and for $20 or $25 each, and gave them out to our employees last week, along with some hand sanitizer to kind of compensate for what we weren't doing personally, but also support the local businesses that have supported us over the years. So yeah, it was a kind of double whammy.
Yeah. I mean, what a cool idea. And honestly, I hope other, there's some executives out there who hear that and go, I should do that as well. You've got this struggling industry, which is, food, restaurant, and hospitality, and especially in places where I think you're going to start to see this reemerging of kind of a reopening in some areas. Man, what a great way to bless your employees with a free meal, because who doesn't want a free meal that they don't have to prepare? They've probably had to, the grocery bills probably crept up a little bit because everyone's, they're not going anywhere. So, but then also to support the local restaurants. How many people is it Jakers? Is that one of the restaurants up there?
Yeah, that's a pretty popular restaurant near us. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a few meals there
Yeah.
at Jakers. That's the only one I could think of. Um, anyway, well, that was awesome. I thought that was a really cool way to kind of connect in with your employees. And actually, the impetus behind asking you was it seemed like something happened on my LinkedIn algorithm. Was like every time that Michael Hughes puts up a post, it was like the top of my feed. So it was almost like every day you were giving credit to other people. It was just, let me tell you how awesome this person is and this person is, and it wasn't like it wasn't the your executive team. It was, I think you called them, was it superheroes or?
We call them, yeah. We put this program together when coronavirus kicked in, called the Corona MVP.
That's
We
right.
had we do site communications every month and call out our MVPs, usually 4 to 6 people that have kind of gone above and beyond in the past month. With the inability to do site communications in person, that became a challenge. So we now do a weekly MVP for each of our divisions. We call it the Corona Hero or Corona MVP, and call out people that have really helped out, particularly with the crisis, and had to adapt their work style or go do something else to get hand sanitizer production going or whatever else. So,
Mhm.
and we decided to just go public with it because our employees are on Facebook or LinkedIn or both. And we all get to comment on that and kind of give extra kudos on top of the announcement itself. They get a $50 gift card as kind of a thank you, and a little plaque that they get to put on their desk or wherever else, take it home to their families and show them that they're one of the top people in our company for that week. And we do focus in on our hourly technicians that really, they're in a manufacturing organization. They are the people that are on the floor doing the hard work on their feet, and we're very conscious about making sure that they're recognized for that. When I came to the company 3 years ago, our culture was a little bit different, a little bit more focused on the people with the higher titles and whatever else. There was special parking for executives right outside the front door, and I immediately eliminated that. I think that's just, we're all here. Everyone has the same right. If you're here early in the morning, you get the best parking spot. And
Yeah.
it's kind of symbolic gesture. We're in the process of changing our smocks out so that everybody has the same color smock and we're all equal employees. So there's lots of examples of that, and I think that's critical for our culture and really to recognize the people that do the work that add value to our products for our customers.
And where did that come from? That's not, you don't accidentally, like, you don't just read a book and then do that. Was that part of your upbringing? Do you feel like that's how you were raised? Was it embodied at P&G? Where does this sort of care and empathy really originate for you?
Yeah, I think probably all of those places. I do read a lot of books, like a couple of books a month on business development and culture creation and so on. So I've really steeped myself in that over the years, but more from the experiences, right? I think from back working in a blue collar bar back in the days in Ireland, and my parents, my dad is an electrician, my mom kind of raised the kids and then was a secretary in a local school. So we kind of come with an appreciation of kind of where the hard work is and where the stress is. That's been there throughout my life. Procter & Gamble absolutely embodies these values too. So that was, I kind of grew up with that career-wise as well. And yeah, I just think, I'm a businessman. I'm responsible for driving profit in our company. That's my job. I have always seen and believed, and it's grown stronger and stronger over the years, that if you get the culture right in a company, the profit takes care of itself, right? The results come, the higher productivity, for example, right? And we have paid people more here since I've come here, like significantly more, like 10 to 15 to 20 to 25% more than when I started here, the hourly folks on the floor. And you can imagine my board of directors being pretty anxious about those proposed pay rates as I get them approved. And my promise to them was, this is going to pay for itself. And I'll tell you, in our first year, our cost of labor came down by something like 30%, despite paying people 15% more than we were paying them originally. So, and that's because you get the culture right. You reward people for the work they're doing. You get them more organized. We set goals and targets, and they hit them and beat them and set records and keep going. And they feel like they're looked after. I just read an email this morning from an employee. I do these weekly videos updating them on the state of the business, on what we're doing for coronavirus, on our new health kind of protocols and so on, and just appreciating feeling involved and feeling valued. And she mentioned the gift card for the local restaurant and so on. But when you have people feeling like they're part of the team and they're not, just a cog that is used and abused, I think it pays for itself. So it's not totally just being nice for the sake of being nice or being popular. There's business logic behind this, and everywhere I've worked so far, it's more than paid for itself. So it is, in my mind, looking after your people is a smart way to do business.
Yeah, it's almost silly at this point. You mentioned, just reading the books. I don't know if you've read The Culture Code. Was a book that I just recently finished by Daniel Coyle, I think's his name. And there's so many. It's almost like the breadth of education that exists out there on the topic. It makes me think, why doesn't everybody do this? But they don't. I mean, to kind of what you're saying, I can't get into the psyche of people who don't want to do that. But there's two things. It seems like there's one, the soft sort of intangible benefits of culture. And then, but the data is showing, on the other hand, that yes, you have to make money as a business, and this is actually a way to do that, to serve your people, to uplift them, to want to better their lives. Productivity goes up, which I'm guessing is that kind of where you saw the decrease. You said you increased labor pay, but your total labor costs went down. Is that what it was?
Yeah, exactly.
And was that just because productivity was uplifted because people were coming in? And yeah,
absolutely. Our turnover has dropped in half each of the years over the last couple of years. So that's, there's huge cost in that. You can save a few cents on somebody's dollar per hour rate, but if you got a high turnover rate, you're paying for that again in training and quality mistakes and whatever else. So our quality has improved, our productivity has improved, the customer satisfaction, our on-time delivery has gone from a pretty low place into the high 90s, and so then we get more business because of that. It just keeps paying for itself over and over again. So I think I've talked to lots of leaders and executives. I've given training courses on culture creation, both in P&G and in my new role here, and everybody gets excited about it and nods and agrees and thinks that these are great ideas. The discipline of execution of a culture action plan, I have found to be the big differentiator, right? I don't worry about giving away my secrets. I'll talk about them on podcasts or wherever else, because I think people need to have really, really believe in them to have the discipline to put the time it takes into, doing site communications as a CEO, right? To 400 people, 5 different times through 3 shifts every single month. People generally will think that's a great idea, but then won't execute against it. So I think it takes discipline, just like a financial action plan takes discipline. And quite often, I think leaders will focus more on that one versus the culture one. And there'll obviously be some, what will look like conflicts in those two plans. But I think if you put the discipline into the culture action plan, the financial one will sort itself out.
Yeah, that's really it's insightful, because nobody's sitting around saying the way to grow a business is to have really crappy culture. We really think that we want people to be miserable when they show up to work and not be very productive. Like, nobody's saying that. So you're right. There's probably a lot of talk about it. But it's one thing to talk about it, and you're saying it's quite another to actually walk it out every day, because there's going to be maybe competing interests or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So well, I want to shift a little bit because it is a packaging podcast, and I personally I could talk for a long time about just corporate culture and things like that. I think it's a very fascinating study and servant leadership and things of that nature. But we have a large audience of packaging people. And so I'm curious, as you've talked about your response as a company to the COVID-19 crisis, you have your response as a leader to your people, which is going to involve invariably safety and, wearing masks and the social distancing and all of that sort of thing. But your response as a company has been awesome to watch as well, because you even had to pivot a little bit, right, into making products that, while maybe there were products over here that weren't going to be made, you seems like you kind of pivoted and started making very essential products for people, not just in your community, but also to help out, at large. So what was that like? What was that process like to go from, your primary work to making something like hand sanitizer? And then what role did packaging play, and does it continue to play in that transition?
Yeah. So I think the pivot came relatively naturally. I'll tell you, I was driving through Pocatello and stopped at Costco, and I could kind of see this coming out of friends in China and Hong Kong, and I'm like, they're telling me what they're running out of, from masks to hand sanitizer. So I stopped in Costco to pick up some hand sanitizer, probably I would say 2 to 3 weeks before it officially kind of broke big in the US, and they were sold out. They brought in a pallet that morning and it was sold out. And I'm like, wow, we are going to need hand sanitizer in our factory to justify staying open anyway, right? And it's seen as a critical thing to help people not spread the infection. So we started pivoting right away there. We weren't totally physically set up to do that, but we are FDA registered and do an alcohol license, so we were able to kind of get going on that. And then by the time we were getting going, the local hospitals were out of hand sanitizer, local hospices and so on. So we started producing our own hand sanitizer and literally gave away, I think, 13,000 bottles of it in the first few weeks to charities, to like homeless shelters, to the hospices. I think were some of the most appreciative groups that really didn't have access to that. And as we know, in those kind of areas, and nursing homes and so on, it's been pretty it can be pretty devastating.
Right.
Locally, I think we've done pretty well. And I'll tell you, the morale impact of doing those kind of things, even though they're relatively small in the grand scheme of things, but we shifted our charity dollars towards that. It was huge for our employees to get excited and rally around this. It didn't take a lot of hoorah kind of speaking from leadership, but people wanted to help out. And we gave it to our local sheriff department and lots of areas of community that needed to continue to function. But one of the requirements was you got to have access to hand sanitizers in your police car or whatever it is. So we felt great about doing that. And of course, our customers find out about that. They're trying to keep their warehouses open, so we're shipping products to them and selling it at cost and whatever else, just to help them stay open, because that obviously helps us business-wise as well. And then since then, more and more demand for hand sanitizer beyond belief in terms of what people want and the quantities that they want. So we're now seeing it more as a kind of long-term business opportunity, but it didn't start out like that. It really has evolved over time. In terms of packaging and all of that, and all the packaging suppliers listening to this will know this already, but the demand for packaging that's specific to things with hand sanitizers, from pumps to sprayers to whatever version of packaging that you can dispense this product in, has just gone through the roof. And we've seen some pretty high-end customers that are very, very specific about packaging style and design, and will spend a lot of time and money on that. tell us, we will take hand sanitizer in any package you want, even if it's in 4 different types of packages. We will take it because we can sell it, or we have a market for it, or whatever else. So I think people's, whatever you want to call it, particularness or
Right.
is kind of out the window. People will take hand sanitizer whatever way they can get it. We're starting to see the same for even hand soap, which has seen some constraints, and then hand lotion to try and handle the impacts of hand sanitizer on your hands. So it's kind of layered on. We've gotten more into supplying product like that, and working with a variety of suppliers across the board. And the other thing we've seen on the packaging side, not only with hand sanitizer but just in general, is this kind of concern about the supply chain, right? How solid is the link with China? And I think that got pretty rocky right away with coronavirus, late December and through January. A lot of customers asking us, can we alternate source from South Korea or from Italy? And what do you know, those 2 places got hammered within weeks.
Right, exactly.
We're more shut down than China was shut down. So I think what we're seeing is this desire for alternate supply chains. I'm seeing more requests coming in. Can we source the entire thing from US? And we're going back and forth with customers on that. There are some cost implications of that, of course, but more consistent supply and demand situation. So I think it's moving. It'll keep moving. I think the more sophisticated customers want choice and want to be able to pivot from China to South Korea to the US to wherever else. But there's a cost to that as well. So people are trying to work out what the margin implications are as we look at those options for them.
Yeah, that's being on the packaging side of things. I think it's been really fascinating to watch and observe. And as you kind of walk down, I've been thinking through this idea of aftershocks. So in Utah, we were shut down, and then there was one of the largest earthquakes that they've ever had here. So we're locked down, and everyone's already kind of panicking. And then your house starts shaking, and my kids are freaking out, and everyone's, you just kind of, it's very unsettling, honestly, especially for those of us who haven't been in it. So, and then we have these aftershocks. And so I've been thinking through that in terms of, as COVID is this big earthquake that's just shaken the foundation of a lot of industries and, things like that. And what are the aftershocks? So for example, I had never even connected hand lotion to COVID until right now. But you're absolutely right, because everyone's washing their hands and putting hand sanitizer on. Well, what's the aftershock of that is lotion, because your hands are getting really dry. Didn't even register. So that's, and it's all probably in very similar packaging formats. And so it's almost as interesting to me as the culture conversation. Because it just kind of keeps bubbling up and moving and ebbing and flowing. And one of the ways, and I know that this is something that is similar to culture, I know with Elevation Labs, is this idea of sustainability when it comes to everything, but specifically packaging. And it seems like one of the areas that is causing some conflict is, like you're saying, well, anybody will take anything at this point in time. It doesn't even matter. I saw hand sanitizer from a company in flasks, because they were like, we can make hand sanitizer, but we don't have anything to put it in. And this is a massive, like a very large liquor company who should be able to just walk into any bottle supplier and say, this is who we are, and they were like, we don't have anything for you. So they found a bunch of flasks, and that's what they were putting their hand sanitizer in. And so that seems to be causing some conflict with sustainability. Not just that, but restaurants, as they reopen, are we going to see ketchup bottles, which are very sustainable? It's made out of glass, it's refilled, it's used over and over again. Is that going to be replaced with single-use items? So how are you guys balancing that with your customers? And through this whole thing, or is it sort of like we're just getting whatever we can out there with an idea that at some point in time we're going to have to refocus on sustainability? How's that conversation going internally?
Yeah, I think it's probably more the latter. It's kind of run as fast as you can and throw what you can out there. We have a lot of very sustainably focused customers. We as a company have just gone, at the start of this year, 100% renewable energy powered in all of our facilities. That's an example of a thing that we've done. We make our own corrugate boxes here so that we don't stock up a ton of inventory of them, and we do a ton of recycling in that process too. So, and our customers more and more are demanding that or requiring that, and scoring us against their sustainable efforts. And packaging, of course, comes into that conversation pretty regularly. I think on specific to hand sanitizers, I think the concept I see most commonly kind of coming to the forefront now is if they give their end consumers something that's usable, if it can fit in the car, if it's got a pump on it, whatever else, that's great. The next wave is, can I sell them a 32-ounce bottle that they can refill that 100 more times with? I think we're going to see more and more of that. We're going to see that in restaurants. Your example of the ketchup bottle, absolutely. Pouch capability is going to come into this, like the dispensers you see in restaurants or in bathrooms or whatever else. I think that's going to explode. But I know for a fact the packaging around that is also kind of maxed out. So I think it'll be a secondary thought, but it will come into play. How do I make this more than a one-use item and more reusable, especially with the constraints around pumps and the different types of plastic that go into them, and it makes it more difficult to recycle and so on. So I think reusing the pump part of the bottle at least will be more. I know we're doing it in-house in our factory, right? We will make a batch of hand sanitizer and refill all of our kind of end use points versus buy new pumps or anything like that. So that's where I see that playing out. But probably not. The priority probably has shifted to safety first and sustainability second, and in the desperation everyone has to get these types of products in to justify opening their business up, they'll take what they can get. I think there's more work that will come on that probably later this year and into 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the kind of interesting thing about all of this conversation is the net positive impact that sort of a global, I call it a global Sabbath, like a global Shabbat has happened. If I can get, I'll use my very limited Hebrew there. But how everybody sort of hit pause on life, and you see the net positive impacts environmentally. And, the hope is that we can emerge from this just as quickly with we have our focus on safety, and then we also very quickly behind it, sort of like if this is the hand sanitizer and then this is the lotion that comes really quickly behind it, knowing that we have an opportunity now to make some very positive strides, environmentally speaking, from a sustainability perspective. Let's hope that doesn't all get washed away with whatever the changes that end up coming. We had one company tell us they're in the restaurant business, and they actually said that you'll see it'll all be throwaway stuff.
Yeah.
Even potentially in the bathroom. So the soap dispensers that they were filling up, they may have to use single-use soap because it's a potential transition. And I'm not a microbiologist or anything, but it was just an interesting. I never once would have thought that you couldn't go into a Jaker's and you'd have to get your own thing of ketchup come out and your own thing of salsa, and it's all in this little thing that just gets thrown away. So that I'm interested to kind of see and follow where that plays out. And a lot of it is that safety first, sustainability second. It doesn't matter if we're all sustainable if a whole bunch of people are dying. But anyway.
One of the things on that front that we came up with, which again isn't necessarily sustainable, but we have, I can show you here, we did paquettes, a BKC, benzalkonium chloride version of hand sanitizer, but in a paquette, so that our customers, we send them out to our customers. If you're sending us samples or whatever else, people opening up boxes have concerns about handling things and where is it being and whatever else. And there's all kinds of theories about how long this virus lasts on physical surfaces. But to have this in the box so you can take out what you want to take out and then clean your hands afterwards. So there's creative ways, I think, and opportunities to kind of help with the fear factor that's coming and probably going to be here for a while with this disease.
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, going back to, it seems like you have a natural disposition towards others and empathy. That's something that probably a lot of people aren't thinking about, is let's include this little sachet of sanitizer so they can get through everything and then wash their hands. That's awesome. So I have just a couple more questions here to ask. So one of them is, I call it the magic wand question. And this is becoming a more difficult question to ask because of the uncertainty of what the future holds for society, really, in general. But the question is, if you're granted the magic wand, you're given the magic wand from the packaging gods, and they say you can fix anything about this industry. What is it, one or two things, or whatever, however many things you want to say? You could just keep rambling on and on if you want to, but what would be what's the thing that you would be like, I would wave a magic wand and I would fix this about packaging, as the CEO of a company that obviously has to use packaging quite a bit to satisfy the needs of your customers?
Yeah, I think there probably are several things. I think there's a lot of things improving consistently, and we have great partners with our suppliers and distributors around the US and internationally as well. So I don't think we should underplay all the good things and progress that's been made in this industry. I've worked with packaging suppliers in my P&G days and through Elevation Labs for 20 years now. I have some great relationships there. I think in our world, Elevation Labs is about 200 different customers across quite a range of types of products, thousands of products we launch each year for our customers. So the pace that our customers want to kind of get fast to the market is always going to be ASAP and yesterday kind of thing. So that's the world we live in. I know the packaging suppliers feel that time pressure as well. I've got to believe there's a faster way to help our customers make decisions on packaging. And I think this concept of a catalog, really in a very virtual, digital kind of a way, that has all the information on it that's consistent, including sustainable information and recyclability and different components that need to be recycled in different ways and so on. Price, lead time, speed, quantities, MOQs, all those kind of things. We get different versions from different suppliers, and sometimes it's kind of case by case, and then you go iterate, in my mind, relatively slowly, versus here is the catalog, here are the options, put it in front of the customer, and we're talking, stock packaging here typically. And here are the choices you have, and you can make that decision quickly, have samples available fast so that customers can make fast decisions, versus that being a whole kind of level of work in itself. So I think there's work to be done to enable the speed that the end consumer now, especially an online end consumer, what we call our customers, the brands themselves, they want to go, they need to go fast. We need to enable them to go fast. It is for us, for our company, probably the constraint in the CPS in the timeline is sourcing the packaging, identifying it, and then getting it supplied. And I think the biggest opportunity for all of us is in the sourcing decision-making speed. Given, it's the 21st century, we can get these things digitized. We can offer what I consider kind of some kind of digital catalog very quickly and let the customer make their decision up, get samples of them quickly if they need to see them, and just move at a faster pace. That for me would help us grow and help our customers grow more quickly. Yeah,
and I saw a stat, and I have not validated if this is true or not, but it's on the internet, so it's got to be true or something. But I heard somebody say that something like 70% of I want to say it was dollars spent in the US economy are with millennials and younger today. And the reason that that's important, and I think it's an important component to what you're talking about for we'll say the packaging industry now, but going across everything, is that your customers are not, they're not just acquiring turnkey solutions from Elevation Labs. They also have an idea and they go, oh, I really want to buy a coffee mug. And the world is such that they go online and they buy a coffee mug and it shows up at their house tomorrow. There's a very different dynamic with how like I did not, I don't know what I am. I think I'm a Gen X, millennial, somewhere in the middle of those two. I was born in 1980, whatever that means. But you used to have to get a catalog out, and you'd have to flip through the catalog, and you'd go, okay, this is what I want. And then you'd fill out an order form, then you'd mail the order form. It was very cumbersome. And, now it's like, I want a new mattress, and I get on my phone and a new mattress shows up. So I think you're right on. There's a lot of industries that are going to have to start to adjust. It's not just packaging. I think there's just a lot of places within the supply chain that are going to be almost forced into a modernization of how they conduct commerce, and how they allow for quicker decision making. I brought it up multiple times. I don't know why. When I used to source packaging, and I would say, I don't know why I can custom design a sneaker. I love shoes. I can custom design a sneaker with Nike and have it show up at my house faster than it takes for me to get a quote. It feels like sometimes. So, it's just, there's a shift that I think is going to have to take place necessarily. And a lot of this powerful generation that is the millennial generation, as much crap as they're given, is going to start forcing that. And I think it's good. I think it's a good change. So I like your magic wand idea. I'll grant it to you if I ever have the power.
Thanks. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of all the questions that I have. So if somebody's listening to this and, they want to get in touch with Elevation Labs, they want to hear what they're doing. Like I said, when we were doing the intro, we've got quite a few listeners in the US and across the globe. So what's the best way for them to interact with you? And, who are the type of people that you would say, yeah, it would be great if you would reach out, because we've got a lot of really awesome things happening. Obviously, you treat people really well. You've got a great culture, and from that, you're driving a lot of awesome stuff. So how would people get in touch with Elevation or yourself?
I think the easiest way is to go on our website, elevationlabs.com, and there's a contact us section on that goes through our marketing and business development team. So, and then if it's a customer looking to do business with us, then we quickly kind of work with that customer to work out what's going on. If it's a supplier, we'll get you in touch with our packaging and purchasing teams. So I think that's the best way to get in touch with us. Our mission statement is to deliver phenomenal customer experiences every day. And we believe, it's not just a fancy sign on a wall, it's a real thing. We talk about it. Every employee can quote that. And it's through engage and empower employees, and while having a progressive impact on our community. So there's three elements of it, right? But all to deliver this phenomenal experience for our customers. So we're always looking for, the top talent in the industry. We're looking for, how do we continue to better ourselves? And it really is a continuous improvement organization. And we get great feedback from our customers on what we're doing well that they're happy with. And I always ask, what can we do better? So if there's things you guys have seen out there that you think we could improve upon, I love hearing that from our customers, from our employees, and from anybody else in the community. So we're always working to drive that mission.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll be in touch. Best of luck.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure.